Living in Appalachia is rough. We deal with violence, gun violence, assault, sexual assault, and rape. And these are things that may be talked about within our podcast. And we just want to let you know, viewer and listener discretion is advised. We live in some of the oldest mountains in the world.
Stolen land, stolen again to create the extraction state.
We are real people talking about real things in a real way.
This is Appalachian Livin. Go.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Finally.
The long winter is over. It's the last day of winter. First day of spring is tomorrow.
How's everyone doing today?
You want to start over?
No, I don't
He's
care.
like, you need to start over.
You should probably start over.
Hi. Hey, how?
Hey. Hello.
All right, ready? I got this. I don't got this.
Okay, are you ready?
No, stop.
Stop.
All right, here we go. I feel like those newscasters, they can't compose themselves.
And you wonder, like, what's the matter with you? Why can't you do this?
It's easy to do, isn't it?
It's weird sitting here acting like you're talking to a bunch of people, and it's really just 3 people in your kitchen, and probably 5 people will watch this all together.
Right, yeah.
Well,
that's
three of them.
That's exactly what happens at 59 News. Okay. There's more people watching in the newsroom than there is at home. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I always got more nervous about the people in the newsroom than I ever got. You know what?
This is too high. I can hear like me. I can hear.
How's that? We have we've got room noise.
That one helped.
You know what I mean? Like
Well, you can turn our mics down and we can get
any,
closer to the mics if you need us to.
We don't have any soundproofing in this room. And so it's terrible acoustics.
So if you would like to hear something a little better, you're more than welcome to donate to our podcast so we can get some soundproofing, maybe some mic stands.
I would like to say the background is
Thank
amazing.
you.
You've got
Thank you.
some great articles back there.
This is all real stuff. That is my father's mining helmet right there. And this is...
And our lights are...
It's a lamp. And a grow light.
Our high-tech studio. But this is fabulous because this feels very it honors some really important parts of our
And that's a dinner bucket.
Yeah, it's an old one.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think that is a rescuer, but I'm not real up to speed on it, and I haven't talked to my father yet.
It's heavy.
It is heavy.
He'll fill you in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I found that in the building. So that's just a few of his mining stuff. And if you look at the helmet, he put, there's stickers on there.
That's what they do.
And you can see the top of it is scraped.
Low coal, boys.
Yeah. So there's scratches on it. I don't know if you can see it, but that was my daddy's mining helmet.
And the stickers are machine stickers, machine shop stickers.
Yeah, these companies will come
We
around
still have
and give
some of
away
those stickers. Joy was a big one. I had a crap ton of Joy.
Yeah, these
stickers.
These companies will come around and give you stickers.
Look at that one.
And they were reflective
I just saw that today.
for a reason, right? a lot of these were reflective for a reareason.
Absolutely.
Yes, they
So,
were reflective.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was looking for the kind of off-color sticker, the sticker, because my husband also wears a hard hat and stickers it up, and there are plenty of union stickers and flags, and then there's that the one that makes you go. And we have coal miners have big, strong tools.
But it's right at the top, so nobody really
Can't
sees
really
it because
see it
that's
you
my
wear your hat
daddy.
like that.
That's my daddy.
Lovely.
Although, you know, when you're looking down, I'm sure
Yeah.
you could see it. But we'll talk to him eventually. He's not doing too well, and he's got black lung, so.
And might I say, if you're going to wait for him to get better to talk to him, you know what I mean?
I know
may
that,
not
but
happen.
we are coming off of, he had doctor's appointments
I
2 days
understand
in a
that.
row,
I understand it.
which means he had to go to Beckley, which is an hour drive there and an hour drive back.
It's exhausting, I'm
You're
sure.
gonna-
It's very exhausting, and this is a man that can't even hardly walk to the restroom, and I know, but we have to pick the right time.
And this is a lesson, I think, for anyone with aging relatives, that
And I might be wrong in that. I know.
those stories that we can capture when we can. I've seen the books online, and I think my sister may have bought one for my mom about Grandma, tell us your story, or something like that, where it's a question, an answer book that prompts our elders to tell their stories. And I think that's really a good reminder to folks that it's tough in those moments. My grandfather, who worked in the coal tipple in Mabon, which is outside of Hotchkiss, there's a whole new complex there now. I don't know
There
if y'all
is.
have seen the.
We go
of
by
course
there
you
all the
do,
time, yeah. And my
Um,
dad, whenever I take him to Beckley, I have to take him the different routes to see the different coal mines because he
I'm
loves
sure.
them. I mean, the coal mines is his heart and soul.
This was his career.
It was everything to him.
His
And he can go
lifeblood.
back right now. And he fought for it. And he risked his life for it. And we'll get into that eventually. As I ran into some videos on YouTube of News Channel 6 in 1990 when the coal mine strikes were going on. And it was Pittston Coal was the big one. And then there was another one in Logan County, and I can't remember the name of it. I want to say Bull Branch or something like that. But I watched all of those, and I know my father was a part of those, and I know my father was a part of, in McDowell County, a man got shot and killed, and he was ambushed, and 2 more were injured. My
Man who was a miner.
he was a miner that was on strike. He was a union miner. They were on strike. And there were non-union miners, scabs, who just wanted to work and they didn't care about the union.
And so when a strike happens, the miners walk out of the job and stand in a line, usually a picket line, with signs that express their grievances often. And a scab is the name for a person who will cross that picket line and go to work.
And get a paycheck.
And the importance that I'm trying to draw here is that that's what collective bargaining is when the employer-employee relationship gets out of whack and the employer starts to oppress or do things that are detrimental to the employee. That's where collective bargaining through unions is useful, that you can stand up as one unit instead of a bunch of different individuals. So when an entire unit walks off of a mine site, it shuts down. That's the point, is to shut it down and recognize that you don't earn money without your people working. So you need to treat your people well. So that's my personal understanding of picket lines and mine strikes. Is that an accurate description?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. The workers who are working in coal mines that are union, they want better pay, better benefits. They have demands, like, we want this, and the company will say no, and they'll say, okay, then we're going on strike.
What were they striking for this time?
Better pay, and I think that
we
are
have
benefits.
a
There's
video here to show us.
Can you see it? You're right here. Do you want me to do the... There you go. There you go.
A company man's trial for strike-related violence. The defendant, longtime New Beckley employee Doug Epling, charged with brandishing a high-powered rifle March 15, 1989, just 3 months into the strike. The state called 4 witnesses, all of them testifying to the same thing, that on the night of March 15, 1989, company employee Doug Epling walked out onto the office's porch and pointed a high-powered rifle at picketers nearby.
And when you say he was looking through the scope, can you show the magistrate in what position you saw the defendant with his rifle?
He was looking down to it. He had it up to his shoulders like this, looking like that on the scope.
After that tell-all testimony, the defense rested its case without even calling a single witness.
Ladies and gentlemen, I find Mr. Epling guilty of brandishing a weapon. I find Mr. Epling $1,000 plus court cost and no jail term. This court is adjourned.
Finally, Union 9 mine workers got justice in court.
Epling is planning to appeal. In Raleigh County, Loretta Budd, News Center 6.
And the company may be headed back to the courts, this time to face contempt charges. Yesterday, New Beckley officials didn't show up for court-ordered negotiations. The union says it's considering not only taking New Beckley to court, but making them pay expenses for the UMW officials who did show up for bargaining.
It's been a while since we've seen reporting like that.
Well, it's been a while since we've seen strikes like that.
Interesting.
You know, when was the last time we had a mine strike? It's been a long time.
That's true.
Because they've effectively busted the union. You know, so you've seen teachers walk off
A couple times that I can remember. Yeah.
So that's the last.
This is the last one I can remember. There's probably others. Now, I know that the auto workers did this, earlier this year, within the past year.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a section of this that we need to look at?
That is a different time. That isn't the time that I was talking about. There is another one, and
is it?
It's in this video.
Oh, okay.
It's in this video.
But it's like a different.
If I could have the mouse, I could do it.
Okay.
Because I kind of know where it's at.
General idea.
You hear our mouse? See? Look. Pinching pennies.
Hey, we're just getting by over here,
yeah.
y'all.
You need it on this.
Where's the cursor? And we can cut some of this
Yeah,
bullshit out.
Yeah, like all of it.
Now, what I heard.
Where is the
now
cursor,
you're over
Tom?
here. You're over here.
Do I need to go
The other way.
this way?
Yep.
Oh, this
Now
is
you should
weird.
see it.
Okay.
Now, what I remember Gable telling me was that he had just walked away from this man. He was standing next to this man, and they were talking and smoking cigarettes, and that he had just walked away from him, I think to go to the bathroom or something like that. And he heard a shot and came back, and the man was bleeding to death, and he died in his hands. Wow. In his arms.
And the man who was shot was a miner.
A
miner who was on strike.
I am pretty sure that this is the same story, unless there's another one that was in McDowell County. I have not confirmed with my father, so let's just say that. But this is in McDowell County when my father was striking, and I know that he was there and found the man that got shot.
And if it's not, it's the same example of something that has happened over and over and over again, right?
He was in this situation, and this could have been my father.
And basically what we're seeing is that they were killing people who were striking.
It will tell you. Yes. Sorry about the gnats. Sorry. about the gnats, but that was a good one.
You can't see them unless you like make a spectacle of killing them. My bad.
All right, well. So, oh, do you have the...
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
We'll just...
The Lord.
Right? Okay, so I'm gonna roll here.
Okay.
This is... Where's the mouse? Okay, and here we go.
42-year-old John McCoy of Premier is dead. Two others, Daryl and Steve Morgan, are hospitalized, all three believed to be union picketers. Tensions have been running high at the mine for months, ever since it became a non-union operation. News Center 6's Betsy Thompson has more.
Tell the vehicles possibly parked on up the road when they were shot.
By mid-afternoon, police were still combing the hillside just below the mine, gathering evidence. This bullet was recovered from a tree atop the hill, where police believe one or more gunmen were stationed.
From what we can find out, there was apparently some subjects that were located up on the hill who fired on some vehicles located on the main road. There was an exchange of gunfire between the two separate parties.
Earlier, police recovered a small arsenal of weapons from non-union workers, more than a dozen handguns and rifles. Police are still trying to piece together what happened. What they do know is that shots were exchanged between union and non-union workers. What they don't know is who fired the first shot.
The mines up here are non-union. The pickets are from the union.
Yeah, that's old recording. You know,
It's old recording, but
I know, right?
we were 10. This was
Yes.
happening when we were kids, you know?
Yeah,
And
I didn't know about this until I got older, until I was an adult. I didn't know that my father was this close to death.
And this is a time before we really had international news. This was local news, right? This wasn't being shown on a national.
My father went to New York.
He went to New York, but this wasn't a
Not
widely-
really, not this story. Now there was a bigger one, I believe, like up in Pittsburgh or something. Maybe I don't know, but the national news hardly ever will report what's happening here in this county.
But we were having shootouts between union
Yes.
and non-union miners
Yes.
during a strike time.
Yes,
After a mine had gone from union to non-union.
ambushed.
These men were ambushed.
Ambushed. They were on top of a mountain,
Aiming down at them.
At them. You know, and I had no idea. All I remember is my father going on strike. We had to move to North Carolina at one point because
of lack of work?
A lack of work.
Because he would not cross the picket line. He was a union miner and would only work in union
he
shops.
would not. No, he is not a scab. My father is not a scab.
Damn straight. Neither is mine or my husband. As a matter of fact, they're union stewards.
Yeah.
In their jobs. Usually my dad retired from a job where he was the union steward.
There is a part in here, and it would have to take me a minute to find it. But there is a man that says the unions are for the men. The unions are for the people, and they protect the people.
And these men who are saying these statements are maybe 1 or 2 generations removed from the men who told the stories to them in person of the mine wars.
Yes.
Because their grandfathers were those men.
This is my father's generation. Yeah, 1989 was Pittston.
Yeah, that's the last major mine strike. 1989.
Yeah, so you had the West Virginia Coal Wars in 1912 to 1921. And then UK, I was reading about the UK miners' strike. They were in 84, 85. Now, there's a piece in here where Soviet miners came and spoke to the union miners because the Soviet miners had just went on strike like a few months before that or something, which was a very odd story.
So the timeline tracks, though, because that's when the Soviet Union was dissolving. So that's when the Soviet Union was turning into Russia and a number of other countries, right? So they were trying to build goodwill across the world, coming out of this era of communism and oppression in Russia. So there were also folks who reached out to Russia to support efforts against the APCO pipeline, or APCO power line. The big one in the 70s. That too. Yeah, and because the local governments wouldn't provide any funding for these folks, so they reached out to foreign governments, and Russia sent money. So it's just interesting to me that solidarity that we saw in the mine wars among immigrant miners from all over the world shows up again in the 80s in a mine strike. Hurt.
I know. This is I think these are all just news articles, not articles. What are they called, Tom? News packages from, I think it's just Channel 6 for like the whole month that's just about the mine strikes. Is there a way to, what am I doing wrong here?
What do you need to do?
Well, I was trying to fast forward.
You can drag that.
Prepare to fast forward.
Drag that red dot.
I'm trying to drag it.
Right.
Honey,
it's not responding to
do you see what I'm doing here? That's not.
Ooh. Took it over.
It may be locked up here.
Probably. It's a pretty long video.
Well,
it's like a 40.
So you said you didn't know about the shootings. What did you know? What were you hearing? Was your dad sharing any of that with you? It was probably very scary.
My dad doesn't really share things like that.
Right. They weren't the type of men generally that came in and talked about their day at work.
No, not really. He would say a couple things, but not. And really, I was young and I didn't pay no attention to what he was saying about his day at work. You know?
Mm-hmm. Good.
I was just I was outside playing.
That's good parenting. If your 10-year-old if you're in that environment and you weren't concerned about it, then that's a good thing.
Yeah. The first time I ever really got concerned about anything was when we had to move. And we moved to North Carolina twice, right? There was this mass exodus to North Carolina. And I bet everybody in McDowell County, Wyoming County, Mercer County, all the coal fields of West Virginia know somebody that moved to North Carolina, if they didn't themselves. And people are still there. I have a lot of family there during this time, because it was so. A lot of men were like, "I'm done with the coal mines. They're breaking up the unions. They don't care about us. My body is being beat to hell, and I can just go work in a factory in North Carolina and make just as much money and do just as well." And they did for a little while, until all the factories closed down.
What types of factories were there? Mostly
furniture in North Carolina, but there's a lot. North Carolina had a lot of different type of factories. My mom worked at a I think they did it was like plastics, but what she did was, of course they were assembly lines. So you did the same thing every day, but she did hummingbird feeders. And so she packaged hummingbird feeders all day.
And these are jobs that have largely been exported since then.
Yes.
Along with the factories.
And we can look this up, but I'm pretty sure it's due to NAFTA. But we can look this up. I don't have my computer, and I think ours is frozen. So
we can take a small break here and see if we can reboot.
Fantastic.
We'll be right back, folks. All right.
Soviet miners visit Southwest Virginia or Southern West Virginia. What's SWVA? Is that supposed to be Southern West Virginia? Rum Creek.
Now it could be South.
I'll be back.
It could be Southwestern Virginia.
But I think back then it wasn't just WV; it was WVA. Was the common abbreviation, right? So this is Southern West Virginia. I think is what the intent is. This footage is phenomenal.
I know. Tom probably had it queued up, and I fucked it up.
The union.
Yeah.
And it's
Courts made a whirlwind tour of the Pittston picket lines. They met with the American miners in the name of brotherhood and solidarity. News Center 6's Tracy Kingsley has the story.
For the Soviet miners who walked out in a bitter strike over better working conditions last summer, it was a chance to listen and learn about what their American counterparts have been through.
To the extent over 3,500 miners were arrested, is that right?
My daughter was arrested, and she's a school teacher. She was arrested. She was arrested for bringing food up here to the striking miners.
The Soviets want to go home and set up their own independent union. To them, the most amazing thing about the UMW strike against Pittston is that the union must contend with replacement miners.
No, because when they went on strike, all the coal miners went on strike. Including the whole city actually went on strike.
For both the Russians and the American miners, it was a chance to compare notes. But the Russians say they don't think a union like this is possible in their country. For that, they blame their government and their own lack of leadership.
Because our official trade union is not about to give up its official position.
Как говорил мой товарищ Виктор, что нам легче украсть у вас трубку, чем найти своего лидера.
And as my comrade Victor said, it is easier to steal Richard Trumka away from you than to find amongst ourselves an equivalent leader.
The Soviets were scheduled to...
Wow. I mean, isn't that kind of interesting?
It's fascinating. And I think from an international perspective and international politics and how drastically they've changed since then, I am blown away by the solidarity. And the fact that we heard her say that they don't have non-union miners.
The whole town goes on strike.
And this was in Southwest Virginia. On the captions, it did show that it was in Virginia. But those Soviets is what they were called then, because it was the Soviet Union then. It hadn't dissolved yet. Had UMWA hats on and wore them home.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Pretty that crazy. Was moving. I mean, and that's what better definition of solidarity than to come across an ocean and stand with your brothers in that with that intention.
But I have to see how different it is today than it was then. You don't see this. And this wasn't all the miners here.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because Dad said that it was really him
divisive.
And very few people that were there working, that were fighting for the union. And the rest of the men were just wanting to bring a paycheck home for their families. They just wanted to take care of their families. But there's another piece. Then I gotta try to find it. So if you could bear with me.
Sure, take it.
Because just hearing it from these men's mouths. These are men that are my father's generation. These are men that my father worked with, and my father probably knows some of these men. But let's see if I can find.
We wanted to stop. They were here for us, and we're here for them.
Tuesday's violence occurred in the presence of 50 or 60 pickets, many of them union sympathizers, whose numbers had increased here over the last week, showing their support of a cause being sought after by local miners for months. Attempts to collect hundreds of thousands of dollars in back wages and medical benefits, they say, is owed to them by the mine's operators. The shootout took place just hours before the union and mine operators were to reach agreement on settling the debt.
We've been here for 6 months. And then these sympathy workers come in, and then something like this happened.
It was just down the road from the entrance of this mine.
Sympathy workers is what they called them.
Is that scab?
I'm pretty sure that's a scab.
So they were sympathetic to the mine operators and their plights to keep the mines.
Yeah, these sympathetic
open.
Workers come in, and this is what happens.
Some branding.
Yeah. It's, well, they do it all the time. And that's one of the first, yeah. But in my mind, you're a scab. A scab's a scab. You can call them whatever you want. But
if you're from around here and you have a union background or union upbringing, a scab is a scab.
A scab is a scab.
You don't cross a picket line.
Here we go.
Where Tuesday's shooting took place. A man was killed and 2 others wounded. And even though this whole dispute has been about money the union says the mine's operators owe its men, today they say no amount was worth the price of the life of even one miner.
All the men are saying, hey, you know, all the money, they could have it all. All the money in the world is not worth one life.
All the money in the world is not worth one life.
I've heard that this area has been labeled a sacrifice zone.
I've heard that as well.
That the people in this area are just going to have to be sacrificed.
As a cost of doing business.
Yes.
As a cost of mining.
Which, that's why this line hit me so hard this morning when I heard this. Because this is a coal miner that says all the money in the world is not worth one life.
It's easy to say that in that situation, but when you zoom out and look at all the lives lost in so many ways, the irony is, it's hard to breathe in here. It's so thick.
I know, and I did not mean for it to do this. Like, we were trying to be funny.
You can't be funny all the time, but this is gold. This footage is a gold mine because it's a refreshing reminder of what the conversation used to look like. This is a more honest conversation than anyone I've seen in the media recently.
Absolutely. You do not see this today.
You're not going to see this type of stuff coming out in the media.
You don't see this today.
Push
not
play.
at all.
I want to see more.
Absolutely. And this all stems, I think this is all stemming from the shooting, right? It's just
follow-up coverage.
Following up, yeah. It's just kind of going down the line.
Might be worth a weapon, but it's not worth a life.
In McDowell County, Betsy Thompson, News Center 6.
Yes.
A McDowell County coal operator who directs a mine in the same hollow where yesterday's shootout occurred has lost a round with the state Supreme Court. Kenny Childers will have to face trial on charges he failed to post wage bonds. Childers asked the High Court to drop his case, but the request was denied. Childers' case will be tried under a new state law which opens the door for the criminal prosecution of coal operators who don't post wage bonds.
At a news conference, Soviets praised Gorbachev for starting the chain of events in Eastern Europe and said without him, they wouldn't be here now.
Because history called for such a man to undertake such a step, and that man was found in the persona of Gorbachev.
It's not every day Soviet citizens visit an American high school, and students here at Irvington High are a little awed and surprised by what they learned.
I love it. I just think they're so nice, and I didn't picture them to be like this, and I've just appreciated them coming to the U.S. I'd love to go to the Soviet Union now.
I want to be her when I grow up. She is the most West Virginian thing I've seen in a long time.
Hey, I know.
Love her 80s, everything.
I know. Yes.
But again, the sentiment... I just love them. They're so nice. I want to go to the Soviet Union now. I've met folks from there, and I want to go there now.
Well, that's humanizing.
Right.
Something that, wasn't... How do I say this?
But again, we're hearing Gorbachev's name in that newsreel, which means things, they're praising what he's doing and shifting the country away from the Soviet Union into independent countries, right? So I am a political science major. A big part of political science is understanding post-World War II national security and how it shapes politics and how politics are much different after World War II in America than before World War II.
Yeah.
because with World War II became, I guess, capitalism became capitalism became the savior. You know, as communism came up, capitalism was the counter to that. Mm-hmm. And when you had capitalism in balance, you had a thriving middle class, you had a strong union, you had all of that kind of stuff going on, right? So it's interesting to me as a scientist of politics and international studies, as a student of this, to go back in time, because I generalize it as a time period in my mind, but these kind of details make it alive and living, breathing while I was alive.
Yeah.
And this is is this just on YouTube, the footage that you found?
Yeah, I just found this on YouTube this morning.
Did you Google mine strikes? And
yeah. 1980s coal mine strikes, McDowell County.
Jackpot.
So, speaking of historical context, I think this is important that maybe we watch a piece of this.
Mate One.
Yes.
This is from the film Mate One, which should be required reading for anyone wanting to.
Should be in a West Virginia
really
history
understand,
class.
Part of any curriculum.
Yes.
What happened and how it happened. And, I'm sure there are historical inaccuracies here, but the essence of the story is all true.
First thing we got to have is all of these niggers and all these dagos that come in here to take our jobs thrown out of the mine.
Mine's hell. They got them in our houses. They're sitting at our tables right now, and they're sleeping in our beds while we're out living under a piece of canvas at the back of the holler.
I've been a union man my whole life. I know the story with these coal operators and their gun thugs. The only thing they understand is the bad end of a bullet. And if we show them, we just as soon blow up their damn mines and seen them work by a bunch of scabs, but then they gonna listen.
Someone's coming. Catellix, you got someone.
Where'd you find him?
He come right up on the steps.
They told me that CE Live is where the union men's meet.
So?
I got business with the union.
That's so. What's your name, son?
They calls me Few Clothes. I didn't come here looking for no trouble. The men's got to eat.
So why don't you go eat back where you come from?
They told me that they was jobs here.
Oh, nigger. Goddamn scab.
You watch your mouth, Peckerwood. I've been called nigger, and I can't help that the way white folks is, but I ain't never been called no scab. Woo! And I ain't fixing to start up now.
Mic drop.
I go ton for ton loading coal with any man here. When I do, I expect the same dollar for the same work.
You get out of this holler alive, son. You'll be doing good for yourself.
Union men, my ass.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be treated like men? You want to be treated fair? Well, you ain't men to that coal company. Your equipment, like a shovel, a gondola car, a hunk of wood brace. They'll use you till you wear out, or you break down, or you're buried under a slate fall, and then they'll get a new one.
Oh.
And they don't care what color it is or where it comes from. It doesn't matter how much coal you can load or how long your family has lived on this land. If you stand alone, you're just so much shit to those people. You think this man is your enemy? Huh? This is a worker. Any union keeps this man out ain't a union. It's a goddamn club.
That's right.
Yep.
Now they got you fighting white against colored. native against foreign, holler against holler. When you know there ain't but two sides of this world, them that work and them that don't. You work, they don't.
They don't.
That's all you got to know about the enemy.
Can you?
You say you got guns. Well, I know that you all are brave men. And I know you could shoot it out with the company if you had to. But the coal company don't want this union. The state government don't want it. The federal government don't want it. And they're all of them just waiting for an excuse to come down and crush us to nothing. Fellas, we're in a hole full of coal gas here. The tiniest spark at the wrong time is going to be the end of us. So we got to pick away at this situation, slow and careful.
I like his analogy.
We got to organize and build support. We got to work together. Together. Till they can't get their coal out of the ground without us, because we're a union. Because we're the workers, damn it, and we take care of each other.
How can we shut the mines down if we don't dynamite them?
The men walk out. All of them.
Fat chance.
And every man that walks out on his own steam, we take into the union.
Solidarity.
All the Dagos and all the colors.
Yes.
That's what a union is, fellas. You better get used to it.
That's
Amen.
powerful. I have goosebumps all over my body hearing that, because when I say union steward, that's who I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's the person in the room that reminds you who and what you are.
And your power.
Your power is a
Reminds you
collective
of your
unit.
power.
That divided we fall. United we stand.
And that is what we are right now. We're divided.
This scene could be shown right now, and everybody in today's environment in these communities would pull something from it and apply it to their life today.
Yeah.
Holler to holler, color against color, ideology against ideology, political party against political party identification, and creating war with those things.
He said the difference is between the people that work and the people that don't.
And that's always been the truth.
But here's
them
the thing.
Them that work and them that don't, right?
But here's the thing. They have started to say they're, people that don't work. I'm not talking about the millionaires, the coal miner operators. Just people that don't work in the coal mine or just don't have a job because they have a disability, and there are people that work the system. Yes, we know that.
But that is a very small portion of people. There are legitimate reasons for all kinds of disabilities around here. But thank you for sharing that, Tom. Mate One is something that should absolutely... Not just because I'm a fan of the union, because this is a huge chunk of American history. And what happened 100 years ago, again, I talk about this, I kind of pepper this, and we'll go more into it with the Mine Wars conversations, but our 40-hour work week, our weekends, our holidays, our child labor laws, those are the types of things.
What little we have.
Correct. And what he said about your machine and your replaceable... I remember in my early days learning about the company stores and the mentality of the mine owners and operators that a mule was more valuable than a man, because if the mule died, you had to purchase another one. If a man died, there were 50 men outside that will step in his place and take his spot. So just that statement kind of shows how little they were valued.
Yeah.
And the union
still
movement.
are. They still are.
Well, and the union movement was the result of that, and then the degradation of the unions and the union busting has resulted in what we have today, where they treat them awfully.
Yeah, it's and I didn't mean to really go too far here into this, but I saw this morning, and I wanted to talk about black lung because we had, some episodes with my father this week. Anyway. This is an ongoing, thing. But I found this. But there are some things here that I think is very important to show.
Absolutely, and I'm a fan of what you're going to show because I made the comment about this is back when miners stood up like men and said what needed to be said and didn't cower.
No, not at all. Let me see.
I can't remember what film it was, what documentary I was watching, but it broke down the Friends of Coal and how they would do rallies during the workday at mines, and they would pull the boys out of the mine and they would hold a rally,
kind of like a office pizza party,
right?
Inside. But it creates a visual of lots of people rallying and supporting something, but you're getting paid to be there. Were they paid? Organizer?
Yeah,
was the first paid?
But they would hold these Friends of Coal rallies during work hours, and all the miners would be there, and they would tell them how certain political figures had plans to shut the mine down or slow production and take their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And they started doing that in the late 90s.
So they were influencing politics in the workplace.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, making them afraid of their jobs.
I was trying to find that in a YouTube video, and if I had had the foresight to have that ready to go, I could find it. But and I'm trying to remember what documentary or show that I was watching.
I remember the visual. Was it when they had like all the same color shirts on and stuff, and they do or are you talking about specific rallies, like political rallies?
Well, it was a rally inside of a coal operation.
Okay.
During the workday.
They called it a rally, but it was a party at work. It was basically like your office pizza party, but the equivalent of whatever a coal mines would do.
Yeah, they'd have food and drinks, and then they would speak.
They'd indoctrinate you on how you should vote to save your job.
How you should vote to save coal, because coal is under attack. They didn't elaborate into the fact that it's the coal company that is being attacked, and the argument is if you attack the coal company, then you're attacking the coal miner. But the bottom line is what is being affected here. I don't think the coal miner really would be affected all of that much, right? If you do it right, you need more miners.
That's right.
If you do it safely, you need more inspectors. If you do it right, you need more bosses.
But that costs a lot of money.
To ensure, right. Mm-hmm. And so then that bottom line for the company is going to shrink. And, maybe the argument is there won't be that many coal companies if the bottom line is shrunk. There won't be that many coal operations if that bottom line is shrunk. Right? But what's a man's life worth?
And that's a moving target, because when you overlay the boom bust nature of the coal industry and the international economy around coal extraction, who buys coal, who brokers it, who uses it out of West Virginia and other coal producing places, you've heard that your whole life. It's boom bust. Coal is boom bust.
Yeah.
It's up, it's down. It's up, it's down.
Yeah.
So how can you then say that certain policies and political institutions are going to guarantee that you have your jobs and coal is going to be safe when you're tied to an international?
Yeah. If another country doesn't need your coal, then
right. And countries,
a lot of our coal goes to China, right?
And Germany, which is a green energy company by and large, but they broker our coal to other countries. So there's this bit, and a lot of the metallurgical coal, the high quality anthracite, super that they don't, it cooks so hot that they use it in coke plants to heat steel so hot and get the molecules so hot that they compress the molecules and create a stronger steel. That's what coke plants do. It takes a special kind of coal to do that, and that's the anthracite. Metallurgical is the next step up. Super high carbon content that burns super hot.
Have you ever been to Nuttleburg?
Is it in Cabot? Oh,
well, it's on the New River Gorge.
Okay, I feel like I've seen a sign.
I don't know if it's in Fayette County or.
Yeah, it's in Fayette County.
Is it in Fayette?
It's within the gorge. It originally was created by a man, Nuttall was his last name, and then quickly sold off to Henry Ford. Oh. And they have the coke ovens there that are still there.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you can walk through and see the coke ovens.
Yeah, and they're right next to the tracks. And so they would heat the coal and turn it into, coke.
Yeah.
And then load that onto
the train.
To take to wherever they would refine the steel.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which was usually Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Right upriver.
Yeah.
And the locks and dams, when I say upriver, they moved things upriver by locks and dams. They floated upriver, right?
Yeah.
It's really fascinating, the infrastructure they built around the coal industry to make that happen.
I could bring some pictures up if you want to see that, but...
The coke ovens?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because it's part of the process of how I don't think people understand the role that coal plays in steel production. And anywhere that wants to produce high quality steel needs coal to do it in that process.
Well, that's why they say that West Virginia, built America.
Right. The steel
because
that is in the
coal
bridges
that is underneath our feet is the kind of coal that makes steel.
Right. And there are coal mines out west. They have bituminous coal and a lesser carbon, higher other stuff content. It burns dirtier. And I know the coal powered plants, there's a lot of tension right now because they're trying to transition those plants, some of them over to natural gas plants, which that's kind of what pits coal and natural gas against each other in this state, is that transition.
Yeah.
And you would think they would be allies, and I think they are in some ways, but not
they're
in
also kind of
others.
competitors.
Yeah.
So these are the coke ovens.
Oh, yeah. So the coke ovens is where they would heat up the coal to activate it,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And these are rock. How deep are they? Do you know about how deep?
They're not deep at all. They're just like
deep.
Igloos.
Yeah,
is
they're
what they
rounded
look like
on the inside. Here's the the other side.
It's just like a dome.
So they would shovel it in, heat it up, and then shovel it out.
Yeah.
That sounds awful.
Oh, imagine.
I can't. The smell, the toxins,
right, and the town's right here. If
yes,
if it's right next to the town. This was not separated at all. But this is the old style here. Mm-hmm. Right. This was turn of the century, 1920, 1930.
So are you familiar with the Clairton, Pennsylvania Coke Works and the big valley in Clairton? I work with a lady up there named Melanie Mead, who has been fighting to breathe clean air her entire life. And the entire Clairton Valley, as far as you can see, is just cokework plants and chemical productions. And so it's fascinating to me to see this kind of old style, old school, use it as you need it kind of coke ovens versus what you have there today, which is miles and miles and miles and miles of coke ovens.
See, this is the tipple, and the coke ovens are over here, outside of this frame. If you can see my cursor there, these coke ovens are lined up right here next to the.
And the houses are just up on the gorge.
And the houses are here
up the hill.
Right.
The mine is here.
The dust that rolled off of that mine, you'll hear stories of the cleaning that they had to do every single day to keep the coal dust off the house and off the table. And
you still have to do that here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
You could probably take a good coating off of our house right now because
I noticed that we need to power wash our house this spring.
Well, and you have a road project happening right up the road
that
too.
Does a big part of it.
I sat in traffic and watched dust.
We feel the shakes.
I was going to say they blasted the side of the mountain there, and there's a bunch of rock in the road, and they have one lane shut down. And as they were scraping it and moving it, just billowing dust coming up over. Now that's pretty much sandstone and silica, which is also not good to breathe.
And my father has black lung, who is less than a mile from it.
Right. So,
and that's probably why he's having such terrible issues right now. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I felt like I needed a mask today. I think I told you in Welch, I was in where it's flooded. It has, now dried, but the mud that came out of the hollers and off the coal mines into the towns and the houses.
It's just settled down in the valley.
There's just this mud that's toxic. It is. And it's blowing around now because we had a really windy day. And so I'm sitting in my car watching just dust flying all around my car and thinking, I don't want to breathe that.
You don't know what's in that.
I don't want to breathe it. I don't want it on me.
I still have some, what are they, K95s?
Yeah, I mean.
Masks if you want to.
It's a reality.
Hello, everyone.
Whoa.
Steve Hensley.
For one, thousands of Eastern Kentuckians say they are fighting for their jobs on this Labor Day. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Hensley, and happy Labor Day to you. Leading our news tonight, a huge crowd came together in West Virginia today at the Friends of America rally. WYNT's Angela Sparkman is live in Holden to begin our top story team coverage.
More than 80,000 people were here during the day, many from Eastern Kentucky, and they spent most of their time surrounding the stage where several bands just finished performing. But people here say this was more than a party. This was a message they want all of America to hear. Thousands of coal miners and their families from 35 states gathered on a reclaimed old strip mine site in West Virginia and rallied for their industry.
Now we got to fight for our jobs just like everybody else does, and that's what we're here to do.
Coal miners say they are suffering. The down economy has forced thousands of layoffs this year, like Eastern Kentuckian Merle Marshall, who says he lost his job on Friday and now does not know how he'll support his family.
Without coal, Eastern Kentucky, I mean, it's gone.
County and state leaders at the rally say the coal industry losses hurt more than the miners, but also the local governments, schools, and other businesses who depend on money from coal.
I don't know what will happen to our economy and our jobs there in Letcher County.
The group believes proposed climate change legislation like the nicknamed cap and trade bill will devastate the coal industry even more and take away America's cheap energy source, which miners say they work hard to provide.
Without it, our electric bills, gas prices, everything's going to skyrocket, and, the American people ain't going to be able to afford it.
The rally included speakers Sean Hannity and Ted Nugent.
And the reason that you're here today is because I think you've had enough. And that it's time to celebrate Independence Day every day.
What year was this?
Hank Williams Jr.
During COVID. Or 2009.
No, it was a long time ago.
That's what America was founded on.
SD video here says it's at least pre-2012, 2014.
That's true.
We hope that the nation is listening to the coal fields of America.
And say they will keep fighting until the entire country hears their rally. And the rally is wrapping up right now. Organizers just said their goodbyes to everyone, and people are starting to go home, but they say just because they're going home, their fight is not ending. Live in Holden, West Virginia, I'm Angela Sparkman. Back to you.
Angela, I'm interested in the weather there. I know it started raining. Do they think that kept
Nobody
the
cares
crowd
about the
down?
weather.
Yeah.
Okay, this was 15 years ago. WKYT. I hope we don't get sued. Miss Esquire here. Maybe we'll.
This is on YouTube. This is just a YouTube.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was free, right? This is a rally, and so this was a free Hank Williams Jr. concert.
So they created an environment that lots of people are going to come to, whether they supported it or not. Create a media show. Friends of America is what. Did that morph into Friends of Coal?
I think that's just what they called the rally.
That particular rally on Labor Day.
Yeah.
It's the same logo.
Well, let me just say this. I think that package right there exemplifies what I saw when I looked at that was a scared industry. That's what I saw. I saw fear-based actions. There were not any efforts in that time period to do anything substantial for our miners.
No, there's not.
And that it's so interesting because 15 years ago I did not view that. I watched that footage 15 years ago, or I watched it whenever I came back to West Virginia 14 years ago. It had happened recently.
Right.
And I felt very differently about it.
And so that's what 2005 would be 15 years ago. And if you think about just in 1989, we were still...
2005 was 20 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
It's a Gen X curse.
You
Our
gotta-
math ain't math.
I got that dyscalculia, y'all.
Make my head
forgive
hurt.
me. But,
I'm not that old.
In the span of 15 years... Right, what, 2010? Am I right there?
Yes.
Okay. 2010, then in 1989 we were fighting to keep our union. And then by 2010 our workers are now fighting for the coal company
to keep their jobs.
Because I can't remember when the last union walkout, right? The last strike was 1989. That's what we Googled a while ago, and so they had effectively busted the union.
And then within 20 years, they've turned
it around.
So I'll tell you, during this time, my father was on strike. He wasn't working. So eventually we had to move to North Carolina, like I said, come back because he had gotten a job for a little bit, lost it again, and took the last bit of savings that they had and moved us to North Carolina, bought a piece of land, moved. We had a single wide trailer, moved the single wide trailer there, and we were there for, I don't even know, maybe just a few months. And I went to school and I came home and Mom said, Miss Morgan called, who was the lady that owned this land at the time. She was the only one that Dad stayed in touch with. He took care of her and her daughter until they both passed. But anyway, she called and was trying to get a hold of Dad because some guy that Dad had worked with and had told Dad, if I ever open a mines, I will call you. I will find you. I'll call you. But, of course, you can't hold out on things like that. But this man tracked my dad down and was like, I'm starting the mines up here, Mingo Logan, and I want you to come and work for me. And we left the next day. We left the next day, and that was my dad's last job. He retired at Mingo Logan in 2007, I think it was, when Mingo Logan got bought out by another company, and they gave him a choice to either go ahead and retire or lose his retirement and start with a new company. Or there was some kind of crazy choice. And he was near the end, he was ready to retire. And so he went ahead and retired in 2007. But that time in the 90s, after that last strike, the mine that he was at was the best mine to work at around here. And you talk to so many people his age, be like, yeah, I worked at Mingo Logan. I think it's still going. I think Mingo Logan's, is it still there? It's called something else probably. It used to be Arch Coal.
Well, that's another issue, is that the names change, and as companies go bankrupt and subsidiaries take over, it's really hard to stay on top of who owns the mines, who owns the permits.
But that was the best job, but it was non-union.
He worked non-union at the end.
He had to. There was no union mines. He missed his union pension by 9 months. 9 months. He doesn't have a union pension.
What do you mean he missed it by 9 months? Did he not work his whole damn life for it?
He worked you had to work in a union mine for 20 years.
For it to vest.
And he worked a total of 19 years and however many damn months and in union, because he jumped around from place to place, and some were union and some were not.
Because he had to.
He had to. And so he was 9 months short of his union. Yeah.
What a great reward for being such a strong union man.
Yeah.
Although, I understand union pensions and how they work, and that you have to commit to it for a certain amount of time. However,
this man almost died for it. And was willing to die for it.
When an industry doesn't support making sure that's plausible.
And they go around this whole thing as well. You have a choice whether or not, the men have a choice. They can vote, whether or not they want to be union. But don't you think that they get threats?
Oh, I've worked in shops as a grown up. I won't name them for legal reasons, but where we were straight up told, if you say the word union, you'll be fired.
Yeah.
Department stores.
Yes.
In the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I wanted to wear my I'm union and I'm vote.
So
shirt.
West Virginia is a right to work state, which means employees cannot be forced to join a union or pay union dues as a condition of employment as established by the Workplace Freedom Act in 2016. But
that
is some bullshit language, if I may add.
That's
because when
AI
I read
overview.
but basically what it is the way they worded it was that you don't have to be forced to pay union dues.
But I don't think people understand what union dues are. That's your pension.
That's your pension.
That's what you retire
And that's
on.
also your security. They can't fire you for some bullshit.
Yeah, the union will send somebody
legal
that
representation.
will come and fight for you, who understand the law.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you have an issue at work and your boss wants to fire you, they can't just fire you. You have to call your union rep, and they have to have some sort of,
And I've advised people when they've dropped out of the union or quit paying their union dues, and because they don't see the value of it, and then they get fired for some bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Well, are you in the union?" "Well, no, I left the union, blah, 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 blah." "Oh, well, you got to go hire an attorney."
Yeah.
$5-10 grand, whatever that attorney is going to cost to argue your labor
union
dispute.
rep is free.
And the dues, people are so...
My Lord, you paid that much for Netflix every month.
Exactly, as to the benefit. My father has drawn over $1.5 million on his retirement and pension from his Boilermaker pension. He never in a million years dreamed as a young man working this job that he would draw that much. He knew that he would draw a pension. He retired early at 55. He's 74. He's had that's an incredible run for a Boilermaker, number one. The average lifespan of a Boilermaker is 51 years old.
Go
ahead.
Is your father healthy? I mean, if you want
he suffers from the common health ailments of lifelong men in industry and those types of jobs. COPD, compromised lungs, joint, he had an injury and had to have a knee replaced, not job related, but overall remarkably healthy. But
he seems to be.
He was the man who would spend $25 on a salad in New York City in 1995 when everybody else was eating 99-cent burgers, because when the bottom line is the bottom line, it's the bottom line on everything.
Yeah.
But if you're thoughtful, sorry, that was loud.
No, I had a hiccup.
I thought my thoughtful scared you there. If you're thoughtful about your future, as any entity should be, as any union should be, as any business should be, if you are a forward-thinking person, you are thoughtful about how you treat your body. He didn't smoke. He, he drank like any working man drank, but he was not a heavy drinker. So overall, he did a really good job of taking care of his body.
That's the one thing my father really didn't do was drink. But
he probably would have already
smoked.
left us if he did. I mean, the reality is when you harm your body in those ways and work in these very dangerous...
It takes a toll.
It takes a toll. And manganese poisoning with welders is another issue. What
does that do?
So as you weld, some of the smoke and chemicals that cook off of that welding rod are awful. They're heavy metals, but manganese in particular impacts your memory. And so a lot of people who worked in welding professions suffer from manganese poisoning, and it's just it harms your memory. It's not dementia or Alzheimer's, but it's just it impacts your brain in a certain way.
Right.
My dad also had to leave to go get good union wages. There weren't good jobs around here. He worked in power plants and airports and waste disposal facilities, gigantic ones, nuclear plants.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong here.
We will.
I know you will. And please do, because
folks in the comments will do that for you. Don't worry.
Thanks for listening.
Trust me. Yes, thank you for listening.
I'm sure there's going to be a plethora of folks telling us we don't know what we're talking about, and maybe we don't in certain.
We're not experts on
intricacies,
right?
Okay, but
I do know what I've experienced and what I've seen.
Right.
And I should also say that I have a bachelor's degree in sociology, and I've also worked many years in marketing and advertising. So I know how easy it is to manipulate mass amounts of people.
And the groupthink mentality that takes over once you start to manipulate people, you don't want to be the outsider.
No.
And that's a big component of this.
Definitely do not. And I have to say that, here within just the past 5 years, I myself have decided to be that person, that voice that's like, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And I'm tired of y'all pretending like this is something that's fucking normal. Mm-hmm. This is not normal. This is not what we do. And we don't side with the coal companies. Like, I don't even understand how anybody that has any ancestors from here can say, I am going to side with the coal company, because my entire life I have heard the coal company don't give a damn about you. The coal company don't give a damn about the men. The coal company sure as hell don't give a damn about the people.
They'll use you till you break, and then they'll get you another one, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that what
and
the man said?
If nobody in your family is able to take your position, your family is out on their ass. And that's why they decided the coal mine wars, that's why that happened, is because they were only paying them in script. They could only spend their money at the company store. They couldn't go anywhere else and spend their hard-earned money. They worked them to death. And if they died, someone in their family had to work in the coal mines, or they could not live in the company store or the company house. Mm-hmm. So you can only imagine the things that desperate people will do in order to keep their livelihood. And so I understand it. My father was a coal miner my entire life. That's how I grew up. I completely understand it. But I'm sitting and watching him suffocate today because they gave him faulty respirators and tried to tell him that the reason that he is dying is because he smokes cigarettes. Bullshit. That's bullshit. And I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent.
It was beautiful. I want you to keep going. That was real. That's real. But what blew my mind right now, while you're talking about that, you realize you're taking two time periods 100 years apart and putting them together in your description. That's what occurred to me just now. The parallels that existed, that created the need for the wars and the unions. And when he said they're going to do this until they crush us, we haven't talked about Blair Mountain in depth yet, when they dropped bombs on marching miners on our soil to stop them. And I wrote a little thing about it, and we'll delve into that deeper.
We will. But I've been looking into a lot of the different times, the different eras, what happened and what was a turning point almost. And I got to tell you, oh God, I got to tell you.
Unless you all don't know.
Tom, you. Go ahead.
There is a room in the back of the Whipple Company store in Oak Hill where women paid off debt at the company store. Okay? This is historical fact. That it
was called Esau script.
Yeah.
And it is one of those aspects. And because you brought this up, I think your friend who does Creepalachia, Wes Holden, is a really fantastic resource on things like this. And he might even be mentioned in that article. Oh, that's Wes Harris, I think. He also is... Was it Wes Holden on Creepalachia?
No. Wes Holden is the...
We're going to have to edit this whole piece because I think we should hold off on this because this is a...
Yeah.
I think it's important to set within the culture of the company store. Paying your debts to the company took all forms of activities. It depended on what the company wanted in order to keep you there. And we know that there was undoubtedly rape and forced sexual assault in situations. The stories that have been told have not always been honored, and it's caused tension with the folks who lived those stories, who thought that those stories would never be exposed. And I'm talking about folks that may have had to participate in this or know about it in some way, who are still living.
Well,
go ahead.
My family, my grandfather worked at Scarborough, and Whipple was the company store. Okay.
Whipple is a whole...
It's still there. I have some video of it.
It's not it's changed now. It's not... You can't go see it as it used to.
Well, you can go around it. I have some video of the outside of it.
Yeah.
But,
did you ever go in?
My father was born in house number 1 in Scarborough.
Yeah.
And
which is a coal camp.
It's a coal camp. House number 1 was where the company doctor and the what's the word I'm looking for? Midwives, right? The midwives helped birth the children, right? So that's a part of my personal heritage.
Mm-hmm.
My family lived there and worked there, and
And so where this might arise, how the situation might arise, is if you are a mother of small children and your husband gets hurt or injured in the mine or killed, and you don't have a son of age, which was actually not very high. You could be an 7-8-year-old, and if you were able-bodied, you'd go into the mine to replace your dad or take his place while he was injured and getting better. If you didn't have somebody who could fill that spot, you may be in danger of losing your home. And in order to keep your home sometimes you may have to do things that were unsavory, or be forced to do things that are awful and traumatic. This needs to have a trigger warning on it too when we go there, because I'm triggered by it and I know the story, and it's just super emotional.
Yeah.
And we need to wrap up. It's 10 after 7.
Okay.
But there needs to be an unpacking of the darkness.
It's a lot,
because
there's
people
a
don't
whole
understand
lot.
in our psyche. We say that word a lot, but it's burned into our genes here, right? Like, it's part of who we are. There's coal dust in my blood, right? Like, that's how we express it. But what that really means is it's part of how we think and who we are.
Yeah.
And we come from such trauma.
I'm going to say that my grandfather was killed in the coal mines in 1966. And my grandmother my mom was probably 12, so she had her youngest kid was probably maybe 10, 7 maybe, because I think maybe my mom was 9 or 10. I can't remember. So she had to move. It was not a time where a woman could open her own bank account. She couldn't hold down her own job, right?
And I've heard
they may have been able to, I don't know if women could have a job in 66, but you could not have your own bank account.
Or your own house, or your own car, your own credit card. None of that.
And she had to marry a
man. So that's where the gypsy culture came from, as I understand it, is if you had a large family, in certain instances, you'd dress up and come down to the train station and wait for the new batch of gentlemen to arrive in the town, and then we'll unpack that too. I think that's one of those things, is how did that evolve and what came about of
I
that.
mean, you do what you have to do based on the things that you have to work around in life, and we're gonna wrap this up.
I know, I was gonna say my brain is tired. This was a lot.
I did not mean for this to be so much.
But I think that going to the newsreels from back in the day is just like, it's mind-blowing, and it's making my mind go into new places, knowing what I know, and connecting these dots, and it's really like,
But I wanted to show this. I've been holding this the whole time. These are jacks, and the strikers would throw them in front of the coal trucks, the scabs, to pop the tires.
The only pair of these I've ever seen were turned into earrings.
Well, someone told me to put these in the earrings, and I could, but I've kept them ever since.
And
80,
they would
89,
make the women and
88.
other folks would make these and give them to the miners when they were striking.
My dad gave them to me when I was.
That's a hardcore piece of Appalachia.
I've had them forever. I'll keep it forever.
I love it.
All right, we got to go.
Yep.
And we got a lot to talk about, but we have lives. My kid's coming home. Elise has to go home. And look, if you want to hear us a little better, if you'd like a better backdrop or whatever, we're taking donations. All right. All right.
We're a good investment at this point.
All right.
Thank you for
Have a
listening.
wonderful day. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Appalachian Livin is sponsored in part by Wade Law Firm, PLLC. Sage Stitch Finance Corporation, representing wisdom and mending what we already have, providing gap funds for resilient renovations.
Appalachian Livin is also brought to you by Hope Money Coaching, rescuing you from financial chaos and leading you to a path of financial wellness. Minimalist Gym, helping men and women navigate their health and fitness without restrictive fad diets.